Good evening, it's Joyful Christian Hermit. Well, I drew some eyebrows on today. I was remembering my aunt, the one who was 102. I don't think my cousin told her that I nearly bought it 2 weeks, not quite 2 weeks ago. No, it was 2 weeks ago. So I remember my aunt used to say, "Oh, put some makeup on." I didn't. I just put eyebrows on. I didn't put any makeup on me. She said, "You'd feel so much better. You'd feel so much better." And I realized later it's not us feeling better, but we make other people feel better when we look better. So not having eyebrows anymore is really sort of garish looking. So I did a treat for you all. And whoever saw me, which was, who saw me today? Just the neighbor man. I took their mail over to him. I'm back at my job of taking the mail from their mailbox to their house right next door. I used my cane. I went out and did a little weeding this evening. Most of the day I stayed in bed and realized I need to get up more. I need to get up more. So I did little tasks, little tiny things I could do outside. I trimmed off those plants that I got back. We'll see if they grow. No big deal. But I texted to find out how my elder friend is, and then texted to her grandson because I didn't hear back. And sure enough, she's in the hospital. She got so worked up that she's in the hospital. Been in a couple of days, in tonight still. So I'm praying for her. And she's still talking about it, telling her grandson she'll pray for or pay for these. I said I said to the grandson, it's just an experiment. It was just an experiment. And so then he said something about, well, don't self-flagellate about it. I said, well, I'm not. I'm just saying, I don't want money. It was that the plants might live, he might die. I wasn't making any big deal out of it, but it's teaching me so much. This whole situation is. And then the grandson wrote back and did say, well, that she had been worrying about other things during the day, but even tonight, she's, I guess, with her grandson telling me things, still upset about it. So, folks, we need to learn to not take things too seriously. And if we make a little silly goof, an error in judgment, or some simple little goof where we take things that don't belong to us, but we think we're helping, but we don't mention it to anyone, and you happen to do that to somebody who lives alone and is very vulnerable, and 2 days ago I still couldn't get going or do things. I have to keep my door open, keep it unlocked in case EMS needs to get in here. So yeah, it's just a mistake, and it wasn't anything to get all riled about and get your heart all fluttered about. I wasn't. I wrote several times that very night. Let's laugh about it. Laugh it off. I even wrote something funny. I wrote about I said, I want you to laugh about this, focus on this, that I told her about Oswald and the gurglers. I said, I'd been through such silly, ridiculous, awful things. I said, let's laugh about my stuff, and then we can, just move on from this. And her grandson brought the pots back the next day and she had them in a big trash bag. And I don't know what happened to the clematis. That had the most hope for it, but it's okay. These aren't big things. This is just my little experiment, something that would make me go outside for 10 minutes and water them or clip the dead parts off and see if I could get them to grow. So pray for my friend, this elderly woman. Her daughter and the husband are at the hospital, and what they did was they ended up coming to the home. She lives with the young man, with her grandson. He lives with her. And this is another thing I realize, see, I'm not used to being coddled at all by my kids. You know, I've suffered so long, they burned out to it long ago. They were little kids. They needed me to take care of them. Instead, they were taking care of me when they were little, when I would have the pain seizures. And then when not, I would be up. But I always was abnormal, an abnormal mother. I'm itching up. This experience, this thing I went through has enlivened my arachnoiditis and the itching part of it. Oh my gosh, I go around scratching like a flea-bitten monkey all day long and into the night. So sorry about this, but it's the arachnoiditis got tweaked. It got tweaked from the ordeal. And this other thing that I read about septic shock today. And some may think, well, that's not good. Don't read that stuff. You don't get you upset or whatever. Knowledge is power, says Plato. And I had been wondering, what is wrong with my hands? They're peeling. They're peeling. I use these little scissors, and every couple of hours, see, I have a little task to do. I have to cut the dead skin off. It's coming all into my hand here, just peeling out all the ends of my fingers. So it's hard to text or to type. Oh, look at my bony hands. I tell you, I'm so skinny. Trying to eat. But it's peeling off my fingers and onto this hand, all of this thumb. I have to work on this one. I've got big globs of skin on this one to cut off still. And I read, after you have this is septic shock, which I did read is the worst of the sepsis. And it's the worst because your blood pressure plummets to the point where you're near death. That's why it was so serious. And it happens more suddenly than the others. So it like puts your body into shock. Enough shock, high percentage of people die from it. But because of my gut tack being so painful, I had called the MS. Like they said, if I'd waited a minute longer to call, if I'd gotten there even a minute later, I wouldn't have made it. And I was thinking myself, and I was told that, why didn't I just hang on a little longer? But that's the wrong attitude. I'm convinced God would have had me live because He has things for me to do. Might even be to get my will updated or get some few things in order here. And I trust because it would be a real hassle for my kids. So I've got to find a lawyer and find out. I think I still need to do that. Maybe the law has changed. I'm hoping so, that my Midwest state trust will be reciprocal with this state, but 6 years ago it wasn't. So see how I put that off. But it's going to be expensive. Who wants to pay for stuff like that? But I'll have to. Get it in order. Or it can be a real mess in court. And then they end up paying probate taxes and things. And the trust that I paid a lot for initially, years and years ago, is to avoid that. You avoid probate and avoid a lot of extra costs, expenses for your heirs. So, and it's very fast. They get everything very fast, like within minutes they can. So, anyway, I was thinking what a wonderful thing that this happened, though, with this woman, older woman, that, and so I can reflect on me too, and then make decisions. How do I want to be? And understand more. she has been revered by her family. Her grandson lives with her just so she can stay in her home. Isn't that nice? Wouldn't I like that? But no, that's not going to happen. Oh no. And I've accepted it. I didn't expect it. But she's got that going for her. And her son is in Mexico. He's very, very ill, but he's got COPD and he could live for several more years. He's in bed most of the time, but some days up and down, up and down. That's how COPD works. I have a friend for it. She's 77, or will be in August, 77. She's gone on for years with it. And she no longer, I don't think she can go out to eat or something, or it might be a rare occasion, and she was back in the hospital not long ago for a few days because she was having trouble breathing, but they got that under control. She's on oxygen all the time, and so she's, like a recliner most of the time. Her husband's there, helps take care of her. So this man is up some days, but most of the time in bed. He's 64. And unless he would get some terrible pneumonia that would, wouldn't catch it in time or didn't have medication for it or something. But otherwise, they can have several pneumonias. There's medicines for it. They pull through. So COPD is a miserable, long, slow death usually. And it's tragic to have it. It really is. He was not a smoker. My friend was a chronic smoker. And she quit, but quit too late. It got her. So he wasn't. It was where he worked. There were particles in the air probably. Several of these co-workers have it too. And so he had to retire early. I think he's had it maybe 10 years or 7 years or something. So, and it's his choice to live in Mexico. He's married. His wife has dual citizenship, but he could afford it better in Mexico. But he's not getting, maybe the health care he would have here. And his mother's upset by that. He's the only son of four children she had. And her husband's gone. She's going to be 87 in November. So she's gone down there to be with him a few times. But then she can no longer go by herself. Her family said no, because it's a hard trip. Long delays in LAX and different things. And she's bitty little thing. And then her blood pressure last winter got really bad. Really high. And they couldn't figure out. She was in the hospital a couple of days and doctors doing tests, different things. And it turned out she was grieving. That's what raised her blood pressure, was the upset, the stress, her helplessness of not being able to do anything to heal her son or to help him. And so all during that time, she couldn't travel. The doctor wouldn't let her travel when her blood pressure was that high. So that made it even worse then. She got even more anxious. So I'm realizing this is a very sensitive, loving person, very sensitive. And she's been revered as a mother and as a grandmother. So now, a couple of times, I think one of her daughters has gone with her so she could go and spend time with her son. She sits by the bed, or if he can get up, and they talk. And she's mentioned, it's endearing that that his wife doesn't have conversations like she can have with him. That's a true mother. That's a true mother talking. And we think that we can do better, since we're the mother, and so it's sweet. It's really very sweet. And the wife is wonderful. She is so accommodating of her mother-in-law, and she could stay there all she wanted. but she has to come. She always has to come back. I think you can't stay forever without certain paperwork, and they don't. They don't really want that. They have their home there, and he's not well. But she'll talk with him about different topics that the wife doesn't talk about, that's legit. Um, and memories from childhood she'll talk about with them and things. So it's a beautiful relationship, and but she stresses over that too a lot. And she would mention to me that how she would want to go before he did, that no mother should have to see her child die. But then most of the time she's making comments about how she needs to be with him because she helped her father who had COPD. She helped her elderly parents pass. So she feels like she should be there helping him. She feels that greatly, that is her role, and that she should. And maybe a couple of times I've gently said, well, he loves his wife and she loves him and he's going to be taken care of. And she'll readily agree then. She's a lovely person. But these little things slip out, and they probably do from me at times, if I were getting into a personal conversation. We have our feelings and we maybe try to subjugate them, but they're real and they're genuine. And she had mentioned to me, and I like it. I wrote it to my daughter. I said, it was her Irish grandmother had told her this. From the cradle to the grave, you're always a mother. It's true. It's true. So anyway, I think, there's a lot of mixed emotions, and she's sensitive and dearly loves this son and is worried about him, and if it were one of her other children, she'd be worried about them. So, the daughters are doing all they can to help her and have her visit them to help get her mind off of it so she won't be down or won't be stressing or her blood pressure won't get too high. And also then I had recognized she wants to be purposeful and useful. I do too. That's why I loved it being asked to help the daughter with something. If the others would let me do anything, I would go there, even though I have no, I probably couldn't now, but before I would have gotten on a plane, even though I'd have to stand or walk in the aisle when I could. And sometimes they have the seatbelt light on for a long time. Oh, but I would suffer anything to be able to go be with them if they needed me. See, that's how it is. And even though I know but they aren't going to. The other two aren't going to want me back there. So, because the issues from childhood or whatever, and the son is upset about Catholicism and angry and turned away from God, so he holds that. And I think the eldest, I think part of her upset with me was my living conditions, because it's hard for them to understand. Because I had such a lovely little place back in the Midwest, but frankly, I was bored. That's why I did the gardens, and I kept gardening and gardening and gardening. And that was the hugest, most excessive specimen garden ever. So with the pain, I just can't be idle. I have to be doing something or trying to push to help keep moving and to keep my mind off the pain, to get the endorphins going. I've talked about that before. And I explain it to people, but it's too hard for them to understand or to fathom this level of pain I've got. So, and now I've got this other thing, so I'm starting to understand, but it's still going on. So she's been in the hospital. This is her second night. Tomorrow will be her third day. I'm praying for her. she had said the first night, but she had refused to go. It took her daughter and son-in-law to come over and insist taking her to her doctor. And the doctor evidently immediately called EMS to take her by ambulance to the hospital. He was concerned about her heart. She had worked herself up big time this time, big time. So they're trying to figure out what. And I think once she gets calmed down, but she's still talking about this plant thing. And I had written to her, tried to get her to laugh, told her the story of Oswald the Gurglers, and I said, get your mind, just laugh about this and just how ridiculous I am. And, explain, I was ridiculous, wanting to experiment with those plants. And I totally backed off everything, which I realized you've got to do with someone like that. It's the opposite but from me. She's been coddled by her family, favored and taken care of and bent over backwards and whatever she wants, she's done. And they don't argue much with her and stuff. They, give her free rein. And she wanted to be in her home, so the grandson's living with her. And that's a sacrifice for a young man to do that. Big time. But they love her dearly. So it's just total opposite. I realized that's part of the reason I wasn't thinking. I should have figured out. But granted, she did not respond when I said, had you taken these plants? I didn't say anything about how I would wanted to use them for anything else. I just wanted to find out if she was the one, because I was concerned it had been a stranger or the HOA men. But she didn't respond. So then I wrote and I said, aha, it's got to be the HOA men or worse, a stranger. And I confided, I feel so vulnerable here that someone was out there messing with my property, with my plants, and took them, even took them. Who would do that? I said, who would come to someone's home and just, even though they looked dead in the tops, they still had viable roots probably. We'd been watering them. Her grandson and I had. And so when I said that, and that I was getting ready to file a police report, because I said, if it is the HOA men, I've got them and they will never pester me again. So I was like crazy, acting excited, and I'm going to do this. And who would come onto someone's property without even saying anything to them? So it has to be a stranger or the HOA man. And so that, because she's not used to being told that she's done something wrong, see. She's been treated well, honored as a wonderful mother should be. Except I don't think I would want to be. I'm too used to my kids. They would no more give me any slack on anything, and they don't. I've told you, the ones cut me off 2.5 years ago, but I did find out from my grandson, he's been texting him. Let's find out how I am. So he still has a little pitter-patter in his heart for his mom. And then either that or was, thinking, oh, good, she's going to be gone, and I'll get my little bit of inheritance. No, he wouldn't think that way. They know it's going to be so small. And they all do very, very well. He's doing very well. So no, that was a joke really, because he absolutely would never be like that. My kids have a lot of class. They have a lot of class, and they're not materialistic at all like that. No way. They're really great human beings, but I think it's because I've had so many serious pain stuff, sieges and things, it seemed like I would die. So, it's like they don't get too into it until something's really bad. And then it's like, whoa. So, because when I had my head injury 7 years ago, oh my goodness, they flew out and see, I didn't think that was that bad. I mean, I lived. The neurosurgeons at Harborview in Seattle Trauma Center said that, I should be dead. I should have my neck broken. I should be paralyzed. If I'm alive, I should be paralyzed from the neck down. But that was miraculous. That was miraculous that I wasn't. And my guardian angel got me out of the farmhouse all the way up the road, blood all over me, not aware of a thing, not aware of anything, not even of where I was or seeing anything. I couldn't see. I had too much blood in my eyes. I think they said I had a wad of tissue or something over my eye. One eye, they thought it was out. The neighbor, a lady up the road, happened to be out, just happened to be. Otherwise, it's very still there, especially until about 5 or 5:30 when people are driving back from the little village, driving back to their homes in the south part of the island. But it was by the grace of God that the guardian angel got me out of there because I couldn't see anything. I was not conscious, but I was moving. And I wasn't able to talk not then, not at all, until this lady touched me. I didn't know who it was. I couldn't see. And all I said was, could someone please help me? I think I need some help. Just very calmly. It's probably in shock, or I don't know. And she shouted for some man to come out of his house across the road, and they got me down on the grass and called EMS, and EMS was called their dispatcher because they thought they were going to have to life flight me over. And I'm so glad they didn't have to, because it would have been thousands of dollars, and I had nothing then. I was at the end. I was working on people's money they lent me to be able to finish my place and get it sold. I was just a couple or 3 weeks away from it, and that set me way back. That accident did, but okay. It got sold, and I got moved and got my mom and dad's hard-earned money back, because that was all in that place. Got my son off the cosign. He wanted off. But so that was a miracle. Even a nurse at Harborview said, you must have one powerful guardian angel to get you out of your house and up the road to where, because they'd heard about it, where somebody found you. And we figured just by blood and the timing of things, and of the last picture I had taken of the stairs I was working on, the time of that I'd been in there like maybe a half hour. And we could tell that I'd walked around for a while because there was a lot of blood on the walls and or woodwork. Wasn't on the walls, that was a miracle. Woodwork that could be washed off. Big pool of blood at the base of the stairs, and blood on my pillow, blood in the bathroom. I'd wandered in there, evidently to get tissue or something, but I was totally not remembering anything at all, and I still don't remember any of that. The only thing I remember is the woman touching me and me saying, real calm, just nonchalantly, could somebody please help me? I think I need some help. And how did I? So they thought they were going to have to life flight me because I couldn't answer any questions. And they went down my phone, and I did they said all the last names, went by alphabetical order. So the daughter who had moved back here was first. Then about 3 letters next, and they got a hold of her and said, this is the EMS from this island, and we have your mom. That's all that got said, and there was a breeze or something, and the signal broke. So they tried back, but they couldn't get, the signal was gone. So they went down 3 more, and I recognized, that it was my son. So I'd say yes. So they'd call. And he had just gotten a new position at NBC. Just had been there like 3 days. Here's the EMS calling, and they said, we don't know. They said her hand's definitely broken. I think her eye's gone. Her neck might be broken. We don't know. They got me on one of those boards, and tied the neck down and everything, and my legs were flat. They couldn't put pillows under my knees. My back was killing me from just being on that board. Oh, I was in anguish. And then once had me going in the ambulance, all of a sudden all the pain of my head started. Oh my goodness. So gal, I was just, I always call out to God, but I wasn't screaming. But she said, you want me to pray for you? I said, yes, pray, pray, pray. And that kept me calm. That kept me calm. Because I was starting to cry. It was just so painful. But yeah, but the daughter here knew, and she immediately got her son. He was 11 then, not quite 12. Packed up, and they just started driving to get here. They knew something bad's happened. And so my son then got a hold of her, his sister, as she was driving up there. And going to be a long, I think they stopped, it was like maybe 3 by then. They stopped at midnight at some little place on the way to slept about 5 hours, and then kept driving to get to the hospital. But she kept being updated. And then one of them called the other daughter, because her initial was last. It was just 2 letters after the other. They're all right at the beginning of the alphabet. So, they all flew out. The one daughter back in the Midwest called into I think I was in ICU waiting to get a whole body scan. And she had talked to a neurosurgeon. She's an in-charge person, knows what they are, but she gets through, and she's very logical on what she's going to do, and then had the nurse put the phone up to my ear and told me she was coming out. She would come out right away if I needed brain surgery, because they thought I needed that. A double brain bleed, and it wasn't stopping, so they thought they were going to have to do brain surgery. But as it turned out, it slowed. So see, God was always helping me. This time, after reading about septic shock and all the effects of it, and then also how long it takes to get better if you're on the trajectory for that, it's 6 months to 2 years. I read one place, and the other one said 2 years. Count on 2 years. Very, very slow. And just how weak you are. And that's the truth. When I get up and walk, or even with my cane, or even without around the house, I try to walk without it in the house. There's always something to grab hold of in this place with all my construction stuff and things around it. It feels like I am just walking dead weight. Everything feels slowed down and so heavy and hard to do. Hard and so fatigued. Everything is like, compared to before, maybe 10 times harder to walk, and just the fatigue and this slowness, this dead weight that seems to be my body. And then there is the skin peeling off, and the loss of appetite, not tasting food, not able to sleep well, which of course I'm fatigued all the more. See, I realize the problem with this septic shock is it's on top of the arachnoiditis. That's probably why that one surgeon said, at your age and with everything else you're dealing with, most people will just tell me, sew me back up and and you'll die. You'll choose to die. That's what most people in your condition would do. And, maybe it's right. I didn't need the surgery, but I maybe they won't want to do my intestines. If I have one more, and I found out you can easily get more infections. The first year after septic shock, your immune system is so bad you catch anything, any little cold, anything. Well, my immune system was already bad. I would catch things and it would get really, really super severe. And they said you can will get infections, and that something like 40% of older people who have septic shock within 3 months get another infection and end up back in the hospital with their sepsis. So that was sort of a reality check right then and there, because I'm realizing unless God gives me a massive miracle, and it doesn't seem like he's doing that, to have me get well really fast. No, I am slow. And it's just minimal little things. I went out, I did get the trash can out. That was such effort. All the things that I did just 2 weeks ago, it's just a breeze. Boom, boom, boom. And I didn't work on mowing part of the backyard, too tired. So instead, I pulled a few little weeds, a few minutes out there pulling weeds. Oh, and I worked on those little plants, hoping that they'll maybe, show some life. So it's sort of fun. It wasn't, oh, she wants to pay for them. She's still worrying and passing this on to her grandson to tell me she wants to reimburse for every one of them. No, I said they were just going to be an experiment. I said, if I had only known. And he wrote back a little bit hot, stop self-flagellating. And it's not your fault or something. Well, it is that she got so stirred up. He said, well, she was worried before earlier in the day, but not to that extent. If I hadn't mentioned anything, if she had only answered, then I wouldn't have said a peep that she had done it. I would have just said, well, do you mind? I'll come back. I'll come get them in the morning. Get the bag of them and use the soil. I'd say that. I wouldn't even go into how I had this little plan to have fun trying to get them come back to life. Not that I don't have anything else to do, but I'm odd. My brain's not functioning right either, especially after this septic shock. I'm not on it. I would have been more perceptive with her. And I wouldn't have been so out of my gourd gleeful, thinking that, got these HOA men by the short hairs now, if I can I'll do the police report, then I'll figure out if it was them. I'll find out somehow. Somebody has had to have seen them up there, messing with my plants or taking them or something, Instead, it was this tiny nearly 87-year-old little mite who didn't show up in my ring because she's so teeny. And she probably wasn't over far enough. She didn't come to the door to ask or to mention, hey, I'm going to take these away for you, clear it up for you. So communication's important, but so is sort of analyzing the person and figuring out what you're dealing with. But through all this, I realize my kids are the kind, they're good for when it's the guillotine time. When the old lady's going to die or possibly die, or has to have brain surgery, or is going to have this other surgery, and she's saying she's going to tell him just to sew her up and she'll die. Because the surgeon, I didn't get it, that was even going to be just a colostomy. And so the two daughters, were upset about that and thought, no, you need to do it. But they don't realize this septic shock. And I'm pretty sure this is what I'm going to die of now. Because another statistic is that most older people who have septic shock will die within 5 years of it. Older people who have it. And given my arachnoiditis and my intestines, and my intestines, I haven't had anything in 3 days now. And I'm taking lactulose, I'm taking Miralax. Guess I better take a Dulcolax, but they're just not working. Nothing's coming out that's supposed to with all that. And I haven't eaten a lot, but I would think even the little bit I've eaten, I mean, I've eaten enough. I've had like a big bowl of soup 2 days. And before that I had soup. And I've had oatmeal every day. And then I've had 2 egg omelets. And some other little things, some crackers and things, and stuff to drink. But enough solids that, and I think I had a hard-cooked egg, that, and watermelon and cantaloupe. Now, cantaloupe has fiber, so that should have been coming out by now. So my intestines so it's building up. And I'm telling you, I'm keeping calm, but it's, but see, that's something I'm not mentioning. I don't want I don't want my daughter to worry about it. She's got to focus on her work. It's high stress. It's people are counting on her. Lots of people on this particular daughter with her type of job. She's very active, interactive. And people pay money for her to coach them or teach them or do intensives or whatever. So she's got to be with them and for them in person. So, and can't have her mind worrying about, that what's going to happen here. Because there's nothing anyone can do, not till I can get to my neurosurgeon. I haven't heard when they're getting me in. So time is of the essence. But I'll see the pain doctor in the morning. I'm going to ask him, maybe he can tell me more about what should be happening in 36 hours, I guess it's been, or 48. Will be 48 tomorrow. So, at least, yeah, or more. So, I think stuff goes through in 12 hours. So, yeah, I'm concerned about that just because of the agony. But they say that dying of septic shock is a most horribly painful death. But that sort of figures that God would have a victim soul have that kind of death. It's going to be something that's going to be like Jesus in his crucifixion. Because he's given me so much different types of suffering that are hard sufferings. And hard for me, God goes by our personalities, and some things wouldn't be as hard for some person as another. So, I used to be more impatient and real achiever and all. And I would have never lived like this before the guy came to check the shower to give a bid, this nice man named Mike. And his sweet daughter came with him. She's helping him out this summer, taking all the notations for him while he measures or figures things out. And I said, I've never lived. I said, it's just a mess in here. And I haven't even done stuff in some areas for a couple of years. And then I was building up. I said I put my focus on gardening because that was going to lift me up and build me up after being so sick last winter. And then in the fall, I would get back to doing this. Or in the summer, because I was on such a roll physically, boom, God stopped that. And it might be 2 years. So and he says, I want to get you a shower. You need to get your shower up and running. Then we'll worry about some other things. And I said, no, I'm just doing that for my daughter's sake. Because I said, I do my spit bathing. He said, that's been my washing of choice for a couple or more years. And he got it. He said, oh, well, yeah, I sort of can get that. But then later he says, oh, we've got to get this shower up and running for you. I didn't bother saying again, no, I'm not going to use it. I'm not using it. I like my spit bathing. So, but see, it's hard. It's hard. My body and my pain is so over the top at this point in my life that I just think it's incomprehensible for other people to grasp why I do things the way I do and how I can just ignore and let things go. And I've been thinking through, I really miss the puppies. I called there today and left a message about, worried about them and that they were anxious and wasn't sure, what was going on, how they'd been at with my grandson. Bless his heart, he did a great job. So it turns out he did calm them down. They said, oh, they came back much calmer and far less anxious. They said, now they can tell they miss you, but they're not barking as much now and they're much calmer. So my big goal, although I don't think I can possibly drive that far, it's probably 6 miles and on the busy road. I'm afraid it would take so much for me just to get there. I wouldn't be able to get back. So I wanted to go see them and talk with them and pet them and stuff. And just reassure them, because they haven't seen me. The last they saw of me was not good. Not good. So I knew they were traumatized. And the lady said, yeah, that they had been terrible for the first, what was it? How long they were there? Quite a while. Maybe 8 or 9 days before the third. And then with my grandson at my daughter's place. And he did. He did have him out running around and taking him for a walk, getting him worn out, and calmed him down. So that's good. They're calmed down now. But I've been thinking, just priority-wise, if they come here, I'm not really going to have the energy then to do other stuff. Because just their activity level and their needs and their wanting their breakfast, and Mercy keeps track of their regimen for the day and will paw at me, get up, it's time for a treat. Another treat time. Last treat time of the day. So, and I'll probably have to get to the point where I can try to get them the mile to the dog park and back so they can run. And then, of course, if I get an infection, then I'll be in the hospital again. And those poor little doggies will be back in the cost of it. So I'm not sure still what to do. I'm trying to figure out if it's better for the dogs even to spend a little time with me, and I try to find somebody to take them, but they have a little more time with me. Or, selfishly, maybe it is that I have a little more time with them. I'm not sure what's best. And priority-wise, because having them around did force me to get up. And it's harder now for me to get up. It's too easy for me to stay in bed and not get up and try to build up muscle. So that's something that remains to be determined. But if they're here, I know that I won't be working on stuff here. That energy will be gone. And it'll be mess still. And, so just see, but I have to pray about the pups. What does God want? I have to accept that whatever I do will probably not at all be in sync or logical to what normal people would do. I want to do what will be best for the dogs, to have a little if I have to find new homes for them, to have a little closure with me first, maybe, where I can talk with them about it, and the person could come a few times here to get to know them, and then I could talk to the person and get them sort of used to the idea that they were going to someone else, if I could find someone else. So it's lots of stuff, but it is once more, all the more, I realize, my kids, and I wouldn't want to be coddled. I wouldn't. If I had done something, like getting involved with somebody's things and taking them, even if I was a little bit old and dotty, which I don't think this person is at all. I think just a persistent kind of person gets an idea and charges ahead with it, even if it isn't quite the best choice to make. But my kids would say, "You just can't do that. Take those back. Call them. That's terrible." They wouldn't go for something like that. They don't give me an inch on any little goofs, or if I write a text that's too long, I can't even leave comments anymore. I'm like, too long, so yeah, they're on me. My kids they're cracking the whip on the old lady, make sure I'm doing things right and not being a problem to anyone, and so, but also, and wanting me to be a certain way and to function a certain way and all of that. So the one daughter, she's being very good about giving me time to think through, and she will. But I may not have time. If this gut goes, if I have another attack, or if it's starting to get infected, I'll be gone. So it's another thing. If you guys don't see me on here for, let's say, 3 days, it means that the good Lord has called me home. Or, yeah, at least 3. I could probably, if I were in the hospital again and in ICU, I think that was 2 days later, I did a little video from ICU, which was amazing. I was able to do that little video in the dark with my phone. I could make hardly any sense. The nurse helped me I couldn't figure out how to do the video anymore. So, but things for us to think through. How do we want to be in every phase of our life? How do we want to be? How do we want to be when we're unwell or when it's time for us? I have to think ahead tonight. How am I going to be with the pain doctor tomorrow morning? I'm fairly sure he's going to be trying to put things off on me and angry. Were you taking too much med or what? Because the ICU doctor told him I was, and said to me I was, or the nurse, I guess, later said that I was way over medicated. No, I was not, as it turned out. In fact, I really do need a little more. I wouldn't be so with my videos so bad. Anyway, it's just interesting thinking through lots of things to prepare for. You think you've got like your end sort of figured out, but it's all these interactions and understanding. I haven't had a chance to write my little book that was going to be on, with the theme sort of that death is not for us, it's for others. How we die is for others, and prepare others for it, and without getting too in on ourselves or wanting people to feel sorry or babying us and letting us get it. Like some people will be in a nursing home or a hospital and they'll get cranky and they think they have a right to be that way to other people. They're paying for it and whatever, No, we have to think through how we as Christians will act. And then if we have to do something, like I needed to get out of that rehab place, I did it nicely, calmly, and kindly. Fortunately, I was prepared to escalate. And I still don't know if I'm still supposed to be on antibiotics. I got to have the pain doctor hopefully try to find out for me. I don't know how to find out. If they weren't going to give me the stuff then or tell me then, they're not going to now probably. So we'll see. But the pain doctor or one of his nurses could get it from him. Because I don't want to get sick again. I don't want to suffer like that. And I'd like to get my will set up. They better call around tomorrow. I was hoping to find. Here's this beautiful Day by Day with Mary for July 9th, which is today. Sirach 4:16-18. Whoever entrusts himself to her is wisdom. Whoever entrusts himself to her, wisdom, will possess wisdom, and his descendants will also inherit her. Then wisdom will, bring him happiness and reveal her secrets to him. Now, if God has me live very long, even a couple of years or 1 year or something, I am convinced he wants me to do, as a couple of the viewers had mentioned, one definitely had, and that was to stop talking about the past. And I think I'm not going to talk about these nitty little personality things other than to observe and analyze and make decisions for ourselves on how we want to behave and how we're going to interact with others. We've got to learn to observe people and not get myself into a little mess I got myself into. I didn't want to cause the person so much grief, and it wasn't really me causing it. That's the one thing you have to remember, and I have to catch myself from it. I did not cause her to get all in a tizzy. She did something she shouldn't have done, and she did not want to own it. And she got all upset about it. It was embarrassing. And she's probably not used to making little goofs, or no one calls her out on it. My kids call me out on anything and everything. I used to say, you've taken over where my mother left off. Making me grow up right. But I'm already grown up, and here's my kids, So, no, but I would handle it differently now. Had I had more sense in me to realize this aspects of her personality. That she doesn't take doing something wrong very well. And she's very sweet and very sincere. It's not a put on at all. She means the sincerity and is upset because she's highly sensitive. So it's no one's fault, but just want prayers to get her better, or God to take her home. If this is it for her, I don't think it is. We've been in this position before, with different situations, different ailments she's had. So, wisdom. We entrust ourselves to wisdom. And our descendants will inherit wisdom also. My grandson and my granddaughters. Isn't that a beautiful thing, a beautiful reality? Here's the reflection. See, and it's by St. Alphonsus Liguori this time. See the confidence that the church places in Mary. The church, the Christian church, from early on. They gave her the title Theotokos, God-bearer. In partway through the 3rd century, they gave her that honor. The church places confidence in Mary from early times on. In all public calamities, the church invariably calls upon the faithful, us, to enlist her protection. In public calamities like that big sea battle, Lepanto is called. Was that in the 1700s, I think? And the Pope at the time had everyone pray the rosary, and it helped the army defeat the Muslims, and Christianity was saved for the Western world. People were praying the rosary and asking Mary's protection. So in all public calamities, the church invariably calls upon the faithful to enlist her protection through novenas, through prayers and processions. But note, the prayers are not to Mary. There are prayers with Mary to her Son, asking her Son to help. And through visits to churches and shrines, particularly churches and shrines that have been dedicated or that honor Mary. Churches with her name, like St. Mary's Church, or I don't know, there's several, but the Annunciation, or what was the one I went to? Cathedral of the Conception, maybe, something like that. So now here's the thought to reflect on also. And talking with Mary, the whole church puts her trust in you and in your Son. Teach us to trust you completely in all the troubles and adversities of life. We trust Mary to help us through. She's our mother. Think about my neighbor. He's been there at the hospital. His mom and dad are there at the hospital with the mother, honoring her, looking out for her, encouraging her, talking to the doctor, worrying about her, all of that. So that's what we do with our mothers. Most people do, and my kids do. Like I say, if it gets down to the guillotine, when we're getting to the chop part of my life, something really serious that's life or death. The other times, I've been through so many other times, and the other daughter, she did come out for my knee replacement. They come for the big things, for the guillotine stuff. So anyway, we teach us to trust you completely in all the troubles and adversities of life, whether of body or of soul. Mary will help us. She's our mother. She cares. And she's the mother of Jesus, and she's always right with Jesus. And she's got all these graces that Jesus has to dispense to us. So I'm going to ask Mary right now to ask Jesus. Mary, please ask Jesus. Not a prayer, I'm just asking her. Please ask Jesus for the grace of wisdom and understanding for other people, so that I don't cause any kind of upset that they're triggered by, that they're on the brink, and that what I say sets them off. I don't want to do that to people. I want to understand and discern and be very wise, have wisdom to handle it best, and not just walk into situations and do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing to a person who can't handle it and who I hadn't noticed all these different aspects before. I do now, though, so that's a positive. And I would also like graces from Jesus to know what to do with my dogs, what is best for them. And I would like to have a trial run with them. If I can get my grandson to bring them for an hour or two, even just 15 minutes, and see how I do with them on leashes. Maybe Sunday, because Monday I either sign them up for longer or I bring them home. But I want God's wisdom, because I know God is wanting me to be on a totally different tact and not spending my mind and time and energy on working on the house, really. He wants me for getting my life in order, my things in order to die, because it could happen anytime more. Now, so things can happen fast, I learned, that weren't totally unexpected. I'd never even heard of septic shock before. So, and it does make you dry too. I should have been drinking far more water today. I had two big things of watermelon, but I'm out of it now. I need watermelon. But yet, how to handle the dogs and what's best for them. If having them with me for a while and then rehoming them would be harder than just somebody going there to pick them up, their new owners, I just need to know that, or if God is okay with me trying to have them until I get really, really bad, and then have to get them a new home. But if I switch with my daughter, eventually, sooner or later, or if something happens, it could be right then, as soon as I'm able to get home. She does have this little tiny fenced yard, just little tiny, but at least it's something that on a very bad day I could just open the door and they'd probably bark and they'd probably leap up on the screen and bend it. I'd have to get it fixed or pay the daughter to get it fixed. And the situation would be that it wouldn't be really that even. I'd have a much lesser place. And she'd have this wonderful place. And she was going to use some money to hire people to get it fixed, finish it. She wants things finished. A normal person does and should. This is totally an abnormal situation here. As I said, other than the island, I've never lived like this before. But I've run out of steam. So it's priorities of what's important to me and also what I can do. And now even more. I'm toast. I'm toast. Other than a little bit of walking around and and I'm getting with Hildegard to Bingen. She and I have so much in common. But she listened to God and wrote it out. See, I've been so distracted doing these other things. And maybe the dogs will be too much distraction. But the only thing about the dogs is they do make me get up. They're my enforcers. And there's just something about them that is, like I say, makes me keep going more. But maybe God just wants me to let go too. Let go and let Him be my all here. So, it's gone on way too long. But I'll keep trying, but where's my little thing to even turn this off? My fingers, they are so much skin peeling off. I can't get to, now I've lost it. There it is. Okay, now I can get it turned off.